Hi everyone, McBeard here, back with another card review session for Master Mirror. We got 6 cards to talk about from Friday and over the weekend, and here we are on Monday, June 15th. And we're going to start off with the Syndicate cards that we got to see on Friday. All right, we got Mutant's Maker. This is a new Syndicate bronze card, 4 provision, 4 strength. On deploy, destroy an allied unit, and then gain 3 coins. If you're running Devotion, again, no neutral cards. You do not have to destroy anything. You just gain the 3 coins. So I think this card is quite good because you can compare it to a card like Beggar, which I will show right now on the screen. Now, Beggar is a 3 strength card with 4 provision, 3 strength card that profits you 2. If you bond it, profits you 4. So you get 6 coins when you play 2 of these, but you gotta play them both. The restriction is that you have to have them at the same time. Now, Syndicate is likely going to be playing Devotion more often than not because Syndicate cares a lot about their own units. They want coins, they want to pay fees and tributes, they want their leader abilities to have some sort of synergy with what they're doing. So I feel like the invitation to play Devotion with Syndicate, now that we're not in a world where Portal is a really important Syndicate card, it's a good one still. But it's not like the meta is like it was before. And I think that running Devotion for Mutants, this is an amazing base card. You will play this willingly. People are already playing Street Urchins because profit 3, even if I trigger that fee at all, Street Urchins at 2 is still worth running. But as a proactive play, you just cannot beat this card. It is so damn good. And I think that this alone provides a base. You know how good the 4 provision crimes are going to be. You've seen how good Smuggle is. And we've seen some other cards as well that will support Devotion. So I think that the Bronze Core is going to have such a solid value proposition, especially. And we're just starting with this card. This card is good, but relatively boring because there's not a lot to talk about. But somehow I had a little bit to talk about. Urchin's so popular because they're spenders? I mean, yeah, but Urchin is popular because it's a spender and a profiter. But as a proactive play, you're not going to be able to beat that. All right. It helps a lot to overprofit. Okay, so I mean, I'm not saying... I guess my problem is that I guess I'm really not giving any respect to Urchin. I run Urchin in every Syndicate deck, though, guys. Like, I love the card. But I guess I'm not... Urchin is so good on so many levels that I don't really appreciate it sometimes where I see it late and I have other intentions for those coins. Because if I see this card late and I have other intentions for the coins, I'm getting that 2 extra strength. But it doesn't make this card better. But it is a very good bronze card that will contend or join the most recent best 4 provision bronze card, you could say, in Urchin. Okay, Fallen Knight. This card is really good. This is a double engine, a protected double engine. The Fallen Knight, yeah, he's a 6 provision, 4 strength bronze, but look at what you get. Look at what you get for this card. It's veiled, so you cannot poison, you cannot lock, you cannot bleed, but most importantly, you cannot inflict it with a status that will lead to its death or lead to its uselessness, which is poison and bleed, and I guess rupture. So you cannot hit him at all. And on top of that, he is an intimidate and a spawn engine. This guy is essentially to run a bare knuckle brawler and an Eternal Fire Priest. Instead, just add 2 provisions and combine it all together, and then you get this guy. So it has the value of 2 engines at the same time, and it's protected. It's also Firesworn for what it's worth, and Human for what it's worth. It's a really interesting concept when considering balance, and I really like it if it works this way. If they can actually take 2 lines of text from 2 smaller cards and give you the value of kind of putting 2 engines out, but like they live and die together kind of thing. Like they're bonded together forever into 1 card. Like that opens up a lot of cool options for future cards, you could say. This card could just as easily be a bronze. Like, look at Percival, how it's Harmony 2 or Intimidate 2. This is not Intimidate 2. Far from it. But there's a lot of situations where you can get 2 points a turn from this guy. All you need to do is play. I mean, when you play Congregation, you proc him both times. Because you get the priests, so you spawn those priests, and you play the crime. So Congregation, or anything that plays tutors, plays Congregation, is already there. The new card, Smuggle, is also that card. Another crime that spawns a unit. So these are 2 massive support cards at the bronze slot that are less than this. Now I have a bronze core that I'm building around. The Eternal Fire Priest and the Intimidate cards are also very, very good, and I am still not roped into Devotion, so I can still play a portal for these cards. I think that the engine core for this is going to be excellent, but there's another card that I think is very, very much worth talking about, and that is our good friend Igor the Hook. Do you want to spawn a base copy of this dude? I definitely think so. You think townsfolk are bad? When you've got Igor the Hook copying your Fallen Knights, and you're playing Congregate, copy and Congregate maybe with Triss, playing extra crimes, you're doing everything. I mean, I could go through the deck builder and look at all the great cards that care about spawns or do spawns that somehow satisfy both of these things. Collusion, here's another one. So if you're looking at this guy's potential, it is very, very high. Yes, not horrible is what I would say. Eldavid 04. Not horrible is what I'd say. I think that the 6 provision price point for this card will keep it from. People will probably say that this guy is not. Yeah, they'll say he's not horrible, but they won't say he's super strong. But I will go on record right now saying that this card will be competitive. And if anything brings Igor the Hook back into the meta, it's this guy. He's very good. He's going to be hard to deal with if he's protected in any way. And you have to remove him with damage. You can't just shut him down. And he's going to be proccing like crazy. It's going to be pretty good. It's going to be pretty good. Oh, Novigradian Justice, by the way, is another crime. Novigradian Justice not only spawns a unit and is a crime, but also plays this guy's spiritual predecessor, the Bare Knuckle Brawler. I honestly think that this card is going to make Syndicate feel a little bit more like Harmony than ever before. It's going to be awesome. He is good at what he does, Soul Sailor. Yes. Yeah, this is another one where I got to just say, I don't know, 5 stars. Like, I don't think the provisions hold this card back from being good. Because I think Syndicate is going to be able to do way too many good things at low prices that you're going to have room for at least 1, but I think you're going to get away with 2. You're going to get away with 2 for sure. I wonder if he's going to make it all the way to the expansion without seeing like a strength reduction or something. Because you're probably like, just look at anything that spawns, like no, not the new cleric. Well, I mean the old school card. Sorry, I'm still so hung up on this Fallen Knight dude. The old school brother here, the Eternal Fire Disciple. You can spawn every turn. So you play this dude, and the next turn you play the Fallen Knight, and boom, you've protected him a little bit. Just a little bit, but it's very easy to get him up if you wanted to play this card as well. It's very easy to do that. And like I said, Congregate, especially if you're playing Wildcard, he plays for 6 immediately if you play Wildcard Congregate. Let's just say. I mean, I'm building all these decks in my mind as we speak. Now, I don't think I have the pronunciation correct on Des Array, but I will hope that that's close enough because I'm not going to say it again. This is the card that Trinet revealed. This is a 10 provision crime? I don't know if it's a crime, but we can assume it is. Because it's a Syndicate card and it's the Echo card. The Echo card. So it's a Syndicate special card, 10 provisions with Echo. Damage an enemy unit by 3 and boost all allied Firesworn units by 1. Death Blow. Boost all allied units instead. Ah. Well, this card is very, very strong. And once again, if you could say that the previous Echo cards were filling in for a lost neutral, this one definitely fills in for Triss Talisman. Oh my god, does it ever. You would say that it is the perfect addition to a Syndicate deck that wanted to play Firesworn or Fireswarm, or basically anything wide, and was upset that maybe they wouldn't be able to play Yennefer or Triss Talisman, because they get to play this card, and they get to play this card twice. You know? It's very, very good. And I think that the design and the balance speaks for itself just from that point of view. The Syndicate has no real problem damaging things, and I find that damaging things by 3 is not always fantastic. This, of course, will trigger, in most cases, you don't really care about the death blow, because most of the swarm tactics now and in the future are going to be strictly following Firesworn. If you're playing Congregation, if you're playing Helvede, if you're playing even the leader, Congregate, Sacred Flame, all of these things are Fireswarm. So the death blow for the wide board that you'd be building around doesn't matter in my eyes. It just doesn't really matter. In most cases, on a board where you're building for Swarm, and the only case I can really think of is something like Germain, like where you have like a bunch of stuff that isn't Firesworn, you would want to get that death blow. But if you're playing in Devotion, let's just say generally if you're playing in Devotion, you would have to be going for something like Collusion and have a bunch of stuff, or some very, very, there's some huge staple cards that Syndicate runs that aren't Firesworn cards. But at most, this death blow trigger is probably going to be like 3 or 4 points on a good day, on a really good day. Which is an encouraging death blow, but not restrictive enough to say, oh man, if a meta doesn't hit 3, if I don't hit 3, then this meta isn't good for this card. I really don't think that the meta is going to restrict the power of this card. But if you can hit 3, that's great. Good. This card sees play. Yep. This card sees play in the deck that wants to run it, and it supports the archetype that this deck that is coming in with this expansion for the most part. So this card is absolutely fantastic. There's nothing bad to say about this card. And as somebody who generally loves Swarm and Firesworn, like, I'm loving Syndicate. I love Syndicate in this expansion. I am already very conflicted because I am so into the idea of playing Nilfgaard Assimilate, maybe non-devotion, and maybe not total spies, but Nilfgaard Assimilate for sure. For sure. Because the spy cards, Duchess Informant is like one of the best Assimilate cards in the game, considering we have Vigo and now we have Brathens. Oh, baby. So I feel like Assimilate is going to be so, so good, and then the other spy support cards are going to be good just kind of collaterally, right? So instead of having the spies support another archetype, you're going to have other archetypes support the spies, I think. And then, now we see Syndicate coming in with this delicious flavor. Yum, yum, yum. 9 times Cantarella, way to go. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Anyway, I don't know what else there is to say about this card. You know how it's going to play out. You have a lot of ways to spawn tons of Firesworn stuff. It's really not that hard to do it. So to think that this card isn't going to get, in a long round, I guess we didn't talk about the base value of this. I kind of assumed that it was always going to probably hit 10. It's probably going to always exceed its provision in value. And that's good at 10. When you get up there in provisions, it's hard to see it, It's hard to see it in Dandelion sometimes, the poet. It's hard to see it in the Geralts. You see it in cards like Triss, but you just barely see it. You know, that Lacerate's got to be good. That Talisman's got to be good. But those high provision, sometimes it's really hard to see it. You look for those synergies, and you look for the ways you can set up a board to just really maximize and min-max your late game strategies. But this is the Echo card, and it doesn't care about late game strategy because you can use it late game and still use it in early game. Maybe that sentence doesn't make sense. I should say that you don't have to care about this being late game strategy for 10 provisions, because it's also round 1 strategy to stay in the game. And then you can use it later. These are things that you really, really want to do for the archetype that is being supported here. And you might say, man, this archetype might be good if I could use these cards twice. Like, why is it always Broccolon? Why is it always Waters of Broccolon being so damn good with Mystic Echo? They always get to play that card twice. That deck always looks so good. The power of playing that card twice is apparent every time you play against Mystic Echo. Every Echo card, which is aptly named, every Echo card is going to feel like you're playing against Waters of Broccolon Mystic Echo. Except for the fact that Mystic Echo is not being played with an additional card. Obviously, there are a number of differences. But I'm saying that the power of that card in round 1, when a leader charge is not used, when you're using something to set up or clinch the round. These cards require board state so far. So Waters of Broccolon, the more I think about it, isn't a great example, but I think you guys know what I'm trying to say. But now let's talk about Skellige. It's time to go to YouTube.
While some fight for honor and others fight for glory, some simply fight to feed life's unbearable pain.
Introducing Harald on Crate, an evolving card that gets stronger at the start of each round. The card depicts Harald's character-defining injury and his subsequent war against Clan Drummond. Warrior at heart, Harald attacks any and all foes, and in his final form deals piercing damage whenever a warrior joins his struggle. On Crate Raiders is one of many new cards created to synergize with Harald, while also fleshing out Skellige's warrior archetype. Harald's grit, issuing from constant suffering, has become a sharply honed edge, allowing him to lead the warriors of Skellige to glory.
All right, so I'm going to say something that I don't really consider, especially when I criticize the card reveal page. And I have. Making these things ahead of time takes a long time. This speaks to me, the more I think about this, the more it makes sense that the evolving cards, is it crazy to think that these trailers are why the evolving cards all have the same provision and strength, and they do something that is similar involving a token that maybe isn't. I mean, I don't think so, but I also don't think that it has nothing to do with it, because that means that even in the End Crate Raiders, and you can see it in the End Crate Raiders. Well, I closed my YouTube thing now, but on the End Crate Raiders, it was just the artwork of the Raiders. In the text box, which likely could have been added much, much later, they commit to a strength level, but even still, no provisions shown yet. So when they were, and this also explains why Seditious Aristocrats changed later as well. The Syndicate card seems like they were happy with that. They nailed that down early. That card is so good too. That Syndicate, it's so good because it just does everything the Syndicate wants to do. It's got Syndicate is a faction that needs to have a lot of lines of text if you like it or not, and that card has it, and it's good. Yeah, War of Clans is now showing as a 6 provision card. So that was a card that was previewed today that changed, but that one didn't have a trailer associated with it, so that's certainly my theory is not supported there. Same with Amnesty. I mean, this card is a 6 strength card in the 3rd round. Like, if you can hit the Bloodthirst reliably with this card when you're playing a Freya for it. Oh wait, this still says 4 provision cost warrior? Yeah, okay. So this won't be a selection. But when you Freya this card, you're playing it for 8. Now that is not amazing, right? Because if you Freya a Crow Clan Druid, you're getting 8 out of that card too. So, I mean, that card plays for 8 and that's not hard. However, this card plays for 8 and doesn't care about beasts at all. So there's that. There is that. And it is a warrior and all the other good stuff that goes along with it. I mean, you don't want to make a card that's better. There's no reason for it to be better than Crow Clan Druid out of the graveyard. There's no reason for it to be better. There is a reason to make it competitive in a deck that would care about warriors, much like Crow Clan Druid is competitive in a deck that cares about druids and beasts. So, I guess I'm reviewing this card now. I do like that they keep they're consistently able to create these cards that play for an well, the thing is, this card doesn't really play for expected value in round 1. But once it's, I mean, I think the issue with this card is that when you play it in round 1, let's say, before you resurrect it, let's say, because it's veteran, so you kind of want to play it twice. But if you play it in round 1, it has the value of a 4-point card. But if I play it in round 3, it has the value of a 5-point card. That seems weird, doesn't it? Because Crow Clan Druid, when I play it, both times has a value of a 5-point card. So this card doesn't have like an upside to play early. It has an upside to discard, I suppose. And it is a warrior, so we don't know the extent to which that tag will matter. It's possible that, I mean, we already have Blacksmith that helps warriors, so making warriors too good while giving them too much support could be risky, I suppose. Because you can't counter Crow Clan Druids. I don't know. Is it just well designed and I'm having a hard time seeing that? I just don't think I don't think we've seen enough. I don't think we've seen enough on this card yet. 8 for 5 if played last round. Yeah, but I mean, the other thing about it is you're playing it with a Freya, so it's not even really an 8 for a 5. It's 8 for a 6, isn't it? That's why I'm that's why I'm kind of comparing it to playing the Crow Clan Druid twice, because you're most likely to res that card. That's most likely going to be the card that comes out of the graveyard with Freya. Considering that 4-point warriors now have War of Clans. They have horrible tutors. I mean, I was already discarding like the Savage Bears though, so I mean, I don't know. It's like I'm paying. It's like I'm paying to. I guess here's one thing that I'm not considering. There seems to be a lot of doomed, and there is neutral graveyard hate in this game now with the squirrel. I mean, sorry, neutral bronze graveyard hate. So I think that Skellige may want to have all the warriors they are ever going to want to source from the graveyard. Because they're going to want to play a lot of warriors and play a lot of them from the graveyard, and they don't want Doom to mess with them, I think. I would imagine. So the Ancrate Raider is a card. It fills a number of roles in that it is a warrior. It's not like it's dead or anything. It just seems like it plays undervalued sometimes. But it goes to the graveyard happily. No opponent is going to target this card to remove it, but it is still growing in the graveyard, so there is that. It is going to be a 6 strength card in the graveyard, so when you play it in round 1, Hjalmar has it at 6, let's say. So that's something that I wasn't really considering. I think the biggest thing is that maybe you will just have to take this guy out of the graveyard, and you won't feel so bad because he's coming out at 8. And he's a warrior, and if Harald is in the picture in round 3, that's an extra point. Harald damages the board by 1 extra point. And that Bloodthirst, if I'm to understand how this Bloodthirst triggers, as soon as there's 3 damaged units, this gains Zeal. So if Harald the Cripple is the card that deals the damage, that's like his ping. So you play Harald, and then you bring something back from the graveyard that damages something, and then you play this guy from the graveyard. Harald damages something, all of a sudden you have 3 Bloodthirst. Now he has Zeal. I mean, I don't think it's a lame card. I don't think the issue with this card is I don't think this card could ever be 5 strength, and I also don't think this card could ever be 4 provisions, and I don't think that's not just because of War of Clans, but probably War of Clans doesn't improve that situation at all. And I do like War of Clans, and I prefer that card to stay in the game. And making him damaged by 1 would be like, okay. Sorry, damage by 3. Sorry, damage by 3. I'm thinking of ways to buff this card without breaking it. Damage by 3 would be too good. And the Bloodthirst 2 doesn't necessarily change the ceiling, right? So anyway, I don't think you can make this card any better and still give it Veteran. That's the tricky part about Veteran. Putting it back in the game is great, but it does carry with it implications that this card, the ceiling becomes scary because it is a strengthening effect as well. And then we have our boy Harald, 11 provision, 6 strength, warrior. When you deploy him, you play a bronze warrior from your graveyard. From here, things start to change depending on what round you are playing Harald in. In round 1, when he is only Harald and Crate, injured by this bear, I imagine, crippled, he himself cripples the warrior he resurrects and damages it by 2. When you play it in round 2, he no longer damages that unit. And if you are running a deck with no neutrals, in round 3, Harald finally evolves to Harald the Cripple, in which now he has Veil, and whenever you play a warrior, a random enemy unit is damaged by 1, ignoring its armor. Oh, that's good. That's good. So once again, we have an 11 provision, 6 strength, veiled engine. But this is a little different in that it is not creating a token. But in fact, I mean, in a way it is, because it's putting a doomed unit on the board. And that unit, this card cares about that unit. So in a way it is doing the same thing, but it's got that Skellige flavor because the only token that Skellige has is the Bear Abominations, and I don't want the story of Svalbard and the Bear Abominations, because I think I've heard that story a few too many times. So I think that this is a really elegant way to do it. If they are planning on doing the same thing for every faction in Devotion, this is a cool way for Skellige to handle it. Again, on paper, this card brings the points. A 6 strength engine that is protected, that let's just use Ancrate Raiders as an example. Let's say your opponent's doomed all your stuff, everything else you've built around is gone, but you've played Ancrate Raiders in this deck, and it's in the graveyard. So you've played Harald the Cripple for 6, and then you've played Ancrate Raiders for 6. Harald pings for 1, and the Ancrate Raiders, if it has Zeal, also gets another 2 damage. So whereas these other evolving cards are playing for 12 if you lead off, well, this also plays for 12 as a lead off. But if you just have that Bloodthirst, and I mean, let's just say you're playing Arnjolf, in 1 turn with Arnjolf, shall we do the math? So you spawn and play a warrior, which procs Harald. However, you want to play Harald and you want to... So like the ceiling is kind of wishy-washy here because if Harald is played first, the Raider wouldn't have the Bloodthirst. You know what I'm saying? So... But it's still very good, right? You can see where I'm getting at. So it's like 8 points from Arnjolf, 6 points from Harald, 6 points from the Raiders, another point. So what are we at there? That's 20 points. And then 21 points, the ping from Harald. And then another 23 points with the order from the Raiders. Oh, also, also Harald kills the Harpy. And the Raiders... Well, you'd lose 1 point on the Raiders. But I'm just saying it's strong. I'm just saying that's a strong combo. And that's just one of the combos that I'm thinking. That's my top deck. That's my mind top deck, right? And then we have War of the Clans. I just want to talk about this. Panda revealed this card, and it's not fair for me to reveal this card without actually revealing the poem that he wrote. Panda wrote a poem to go along with War of the Clans, and I'm going to recite this poem. No, this is dumb. I'll make one reference to how Panda talks in this. Otherwise, I'm just going to recite this beautiful poem. And he wrote a small poem about the last card he revealed. So here, look at this. He's got a thing. I love it. The crimson tide with horns of gold, the wall of blue standing tall and bold, full of valor and might, with weapons in hand, to the death they'll fight. It's the war. So this card was revealed at 5, but it is not 5. It is 6. It is a 6 provision raid card. Is this the expansion where we get a card that cares about raids? Last expansion, we got a raid, and we didn't get a card that cares about raids. So this could just be the desire to tag up specials that are not alchemy. But we could get something that finally cares about raids. And I like that, because if you have stuff that cares about raids and you have stuff that cares about alchemy, well, don't you know that those are 2 different archetypes? And those are also 2 different supporting pieces to other archetypes as well. And you don't have to just have everything be alchemy, like how scoia'tael's like everything is nature, and there's no other brand of cards. Like even Northern Realms historically has cared about spells in the past, but they also care about warfare and stuff like that. Nilfgaard has cared about tactics, but they also have cared about alchemy in the past, stuff like that. You don't want to mix and match too much, but I think it's really cool to have 2 tags within a faction, because that means that if you need to free up some design space and you're worried too much about like Freya screwing everything up for Skellige, or maybe you want to make like a deck building restriction where you can't run Freya, but you still want to bring things out of the graveyard. I don't know what that would be, but you have this new card, War of the Clans, another resurrection card for Skellige, another bronze resurrection card for Skellige, a card that warriors will a card that cares about warriors. So, I mean, the devotion makes it extremely versatile, very flexible, and very dangerous. But the death blow shouldn't be too difficult to achieve with Skellige. It just shouldn't be that difficult to achieve. But round 3s are weird. You have some big beefy units. So you want to play this, but then again, as a bronze card, this isn't scream round 3 card to me. Not like Freya does. Because there is a condition. Now in Devotion, you don't mind this being so much of a round 3 card because you're getting it from the graveyard no matter what. You're getting the damage and the unit. Boom, boom, value, value. Very nice. There's some good warriors out there. Easy Heimei Protector, like super good 4-point warriors. We looked at it at the beginning of the stream, and we'll look at it again right now. First of all, the warriors generally aren't bad. You could do much worse than Heimei Spear Maiden and Crate Warrior, who actually wants to be played out of the graveyard. The Heimei Protector is very good as well. But you also want to, now with the Encrate Blacksmith, Protector, things can get out of control quite a bit, because the Encrate Blacksmith, if you haven't paying attention, now boosts an ally unit by 1. There's no healing involved, it's just boosts. So being able to set up with Blacksmith, Protector, with War of Clans, it is damage enemy unit, unfortunately. There could have been synergy here where you damage your own unit, and then you have a unit to heal, but whatever, doesn't matter. I think that this card, Devotion doesn't seem that bad for Skellige. Skellige likes their cards a lot. Skellige has some pretty damn good faction cards these days. The bronzes usually punch pretty high, above their weight, as they say. 8 for 5, a lot of the time. 6 for 4, 7 for 4 in the case of many of these warriors. So that means that you are getting 7 for 4 again, plus 2 damage. Where's the mega thread? Shoutouts to the people who reward. Yeah, it's still War of Clans at the top here. War of Clans at the top. So what do you guys think about these new cards? Or I mean, we can talk about any card really, but I think that these 6 cards that we talked about today, that is the Mutant's Maker. Yeah, the Mutant's Maker, Fallen Knight, Desiree, Ancrate Raiders, Harald the Cripple, and War of Clans. What do you guys think about these cards? There's obviously lots to think about. I think that the perception of these cards, it's a little bit unfair that they're OP or they're not considered very good. I think that Brathan's was a huge example where people had a hard time like, oh, I mean, it doesn't seem overpowered, so it can't be good, right? First of all, that card's really good. But I think that the card, like, even I struggled with it here when we were talking about Street Urchins versus the Mutants Maker. The pricing of the Fallen Knight. Disarray's impact in a world where you can't run Triss Talisman in a swarm world. And Ancrate Raiders when comparing it to something like Crow Clan Druid. I actually think that they are fair. I think that this is, I mean, we'll see if these evolving cards are like a little too good. We may see a meta that's based around killing at 6. We may, which is unfortunate because, I mean, every faction can do it, but some can do it better than others. Like, there was a lot of thought that went into the balance and pricing of these cards. Not so much thought that they're not still changing it, but the thing is, like I said, is that these presentation slides, like what you're looking at right now, the person who is putting this image out, keeping in mind that it needs to be translated into like 20 different languages or whatever, the person that gives this image to the translators, all of those people all the community leads that are posting these cards. Now, I guess it's not maybe they're not translating it. But I mean, they're translating it on the website, right? So they still have to make sure that all of these cards are in a state that can be adapted into those language, right? So correct me if I'm wrong. But that takes a lot of time. So you need to lock down enough. So slipping up on like the fact that these things come out, they are presented, and perhaps the person that is presenting these cards is not somebody that can just quickly go into Photoshop, change the stuff, change the 6 to a 5, change the 5 to a 4, change the text, get it completely approved by the design team. And believe me, anybody who's worked in an office knows that approval is not fast. It doesn't matter if you're going to ask your best friend for a signature. The shit takes forever. Your friend might not be there. Your friend be like, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, they might not be at their desk. They might be having lunch. Like, you just add minutes and minutes and minutes to each step of each thing that you're doing. I'm just talking about one part of it. So approvals and approvals and approvals. And these are going into a game. This game is put out by a publicly traded company. I completely understand that you can't just have someone who is posting these pictures to just change the stuff. You can't just change the stuff. So you have stuff that comes out and it needs to be updated. And it takes time to update those things. The more that it happens, and the more that I look at these cards, and the more I think about how much I just want a balanced game, I actually don't care anymore. I just want a game that is super fun to play, that is balanced. And the more I think about it, Amnesty at 5, it just doesn't seem, we could argue all day long if you think that card is balanced at that price or not, but I'll tell you that I did not see a fun meta with that card in it at that price. And I'm still not 100% sure that it's going to be super fun with that card in it if Nilfgaard is like the most played faction or whatever. But the other stuff that's coming into this expansion is dope enough that I'm just going to let that go for now, because I just want this game to have an expansion come out. And even if they have to hotfix something in the first week, I still don't care. But man, it's just, I don't think any expansion really was hurt all that badly at first. I feel like the worst pain that we've felt in this game have been patch-related balance changes. Or like additions like a leader, like when Dijkstra was added. The artist formerly known as Dijkstra, line pockets. You know, those things come into the game. Or a balance change makes this card just like so nuts. And obviously the scenarios were really, really strong. But, you know, I feel like the scenario, like in an expansion month, it's fresh for long enough, right? It's fresh for long enough that it has to be like busted. Like Dettlaff on release was oppressive. It was very oppressive. As was Higher Vampire. Like an oppressive state, and that had to go. Like things like that were going on there. But scenarios were good. Caretaker scenarios were really annoying, and they eventually balanced it out. But it wasn't oppressive, and you even see Nilfgaard Ball double play still in the game, right? So it's not something that is considered oppressive or something that requires, it's not an issue, right? It's not an issue. So I like it when the meta doesn't have issues, and I love the expansion metas. Oh man, I love them. I played so much Gwent in December, dudes. The Merchants of Ophir expansion and also all that holiday time, I ripped. I played so many games.